Good afternoon and happy Friday, everybody. Please enjoy this wonderful spring weather we've been having. And let's not forget the spring buying season, which has actually turned out to be pretty spectacular. We're going to go over rates, some marketing ideas, flood insurance, and a lawsuit that's happening with real estate. So let's get started on some rates first. Today, we are actually in a pretty nice little trading scenario. We have been in this trading band now all the way back since January 3rd. So this is that trading band we've been talking about, and rates have been bouncing in between here. This is that 4.5 to 4.375 range, and I indicated a few weeks ago that this is that 4.25 range. Well, Wednesday, the Federal Reserve pretty much came out and said, you know, we're not raising rates this year, period. We may only raise rates one time in 2020, but we're really concerned about a recession right now. And so as soon as the Federal Reserve came out and said that, rates sold off, which benefited us. And the stock market actually rallied a little bit, believe it or not, which is kind of odd. And we got a huge bump up to this, what's called a Fibonacci level here. And this was a pretty strong level. Yesterday, we played around with that level, and today we actually blew through that level. Mortgage bonds were actually up all the way up in this area here. So this we said was the 4.25 range. This is the 4.125 range. This is actually the 4% range. And really and truly, we've already quoted rates out today at 3.99%. This number, this Fibonacci level, which is a very, very strong resistance, is actually about 3.875 for conventional rates. For government rates, all of our government rates for a decent credit score are all under 4%. So we're at 3.875, 3.75 for FHA, FHA, VA, and rural development. Conventional rates are looking really, really good right now. If this trend continues and we can get above this level of resistance right here for at least a couple days, and it's trying to come back down today, but at least a couple days, this would become a floor of support, and that would mean that that 4.125 is really, really locked in, or the 4.25 is really, really locked in, and the 4.125 is actually getting very well locked in too. So takeaways for you as real estate agents. First of all, we're floating rates right now. We really don't see much in the way of locking. We do have some clients that just don't want to gamble, which is great. Let's lock those rates in. But for the most part, we can consult people to maybe hold off, and there's potential better rates. The other takeaway from this is call those past clients of yours that are that were sitting on the fence post and say, hey, look, rates have dropped at least a 1/4 point in the last 30 days. It might be time to buy again. We don't know if rates are going to go up or rates are going to continue to go down. But let's not complain about it, because if we go all the way back to a year, actually 2 years, if I can get back there, this is when rates were, here's the rates when we were at 5% on November 8th of 2018. And now we're all the way down to 4%. You can see we've got quite a bit of resistance here, but wow, really 4% for interest rates? That is pretty spectacular. So go out, tell your clients, tell your brokerage, this is a nice time. It's a great springtime for mortgage rates. Flooding is starting to become on everybody's mouth right now. With there's so much snow up in the foothills and in the mountains, they're already releasing in the New York Canal and the Reidenbach Canal, and flooding is going to probably be another thing this year. So the big question I have for realtors out there is, if you have a borrower that's paying for cash, how do they know that they need flood insurance? Well, when we do a loan on a house, we have to pull a flood certification. That determines if they need flood insurance. But a lot of people are buying houses and for cash, and they don't know if they need flood insurance or not. You would assume that their home insurance agent would tell them or not, whether or not they need flood insurance, but really and truly, insurance agents don't make hardly any money on flood insurance, and they really don't pull information about it. So you could have somebody that you help purchase a house, they may be on 5 Mile Creek or 10 Mile Creek or Indian Creek or anything with a creek name in it, and it may require flood insurance. And all of a sudden we're going to get some flooding, and flood insurance takes up to 30 days, if not longer, to go into effect. So here's my recommendation for you, and it's probably you're going to have to get with your broker to see what kind of policy you guys want to set up and whether or not you want to provide this. Me personally, if I was buying a house from a real estate agent and the real estate agent did some due diligence on flood insurance or flood zoning, I think I'd be pretty appreciative of that. And so how do you get a flood cert? Well, really and truly, you can't. As a lender, I can. So if you call me up and you give me the address, flood certs run between $10 and $15. We can't pay for those. We do have to be reimbursed for it. We don't want to get in trouble by RESPA. But they're actually fairly easy to read. So here is what a flood cert looks like. This is actually a flood cert of one I pulled 2 weeks ago or so. And what it does is it'll give the information's name, it gives the lender I went through. But more important, down here it tells me about the flood zoning. And we can look at, this is flood zone X. So it's not a flood zone A or B, and I can get you a list of different levels of Dante's hell for flood, but we really like X. X is great. The other thing this kind of tells me is the last time it was zoned for flood. So this was zoned in 2003 and it was updated on it. We actually had quite a bit of rezoning in 2016 of floodplains. So that's super, super important. So somebody that may be selling a house in Eagle that bought that house in, say, 2014, they weren't in a flood zone then. Well, our Snowmageddon came through and the government rezoned a ton of properties, and now that seller, who may not be aware of it, is in a flood zone. So it's probably in the buyer's best interest to find out, if they're paying cash, that it's in a flood zone. So takeaways from this, I think it's good due diligence. Obviously get with your broker on whether or not you should look at getting flood cert for your buyers, especially when they're paying cash. Like I said, we can pull them. They run between $10 and $15, and we just have to be reimbursed for them. They take 20 seconds to pull. It's all automated. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me or one of my loan officers a call. We're always here to help you. Two last items for you today. First one, we're going to talk about FHA. FHA on the 18th hammered us with some guidelines. Not a lot of guidelines, but they are going to tighten up guidelines, specifically for people who are having their debt to income ratio go over 45%. FHA will actually go up to 55%, but between 45% and 55% now, there's a lot more guidelines, and they're going to start wanting reserves. So if you had somebody that was pre-qualified over a 45% debt to income ratio prior to the 18th, you probably want to get them requalified. We have requalified all of our people already as soon as we found out that the guideline was going to change. Also, if you have FICO scores under 620, there's a lot more guidelines and rule changes for that. Remember, FHA will go down to a 500 FICO score. From 6 or down to a 580, they will do the 3.5% down. From 580 to 500, you have to bring in 10%. But they will go down that low. So that's good because a lot more people can qualify. But again, they tightened up some guidelines. We're going to have to see how all this pans out. Last is my marketing idea. So what is the number one marketing tool you have? And the answer is your email. You need to ensure a couple things on your email, and I am actually guilty of one of them. First thing is don't have multiple email addresses. Have one email address. I know real estate agents, they have 3 email addresses. You should have the same email address for your business and your friends and families and church members and stuff. Because every time you open up your email, or every time somebody opens up your email, they should see your email signature line. This is my signature line right here. And so the signature line is pretty important because it is a way for you to advertise each and every time you send out an email. And second of all, when you respond to an email, you should also respond to that email with a signature line. That way your name and what you do is out there each and every time. So as you can see, my signature is actually good, but I have a mistake in it. So if we look at my signature line here, I've got my company name, I've got what I do. A lot of people ask what this is. I actually am a ham radio operator, so I have a ham radio license. It has all my phone numbers in here, has my addresses, and then it has my ego plate, which is all your designations. We call it an ego plate in there. And then, of course, my licensing. Couple things that is important. On your cell phone number and your office phone number, don't put periods in there, and don't use, like I did, loan in here. I will be changing this to 375-5626. And the reason for that is if somebody opens up your email on their cell phone, they can actually hit that cell at 208-941-1778, and it'll actually auto-dial it for it. If they hit my 375 loan, it's not going to dial it for them. A lot of people will put periods in here, 208, period, 941, period, 1778. Some phones do not recognize this as a phone number, so clients aren't able to easily dial you. Also, like I said, when you respond to an email, so you send out an initial email, client responds back, and then you have a secondary response. Some people, it just responds with your name. You need to respond with all of your contact information, because once again, how many clients are going to scroll down to find all your contact information? This also helps me when I get an email, because then I have all your contact information also. So, marketing tip for today, get your emails all set up with all your information. Try to consolidate down to one email and ensure that your phone numbers are easily dialable from that email, especially on phones, because not a lot of people are reading emails on computers anymore. They're reading them on tablets and cell phones. Thank you. You enjoy your spring day. I appreciate the business as always. And if you ever have questions on anything, don't hesitate to give me or one of my loan officers a phone call. Have a great day.